Hey, I'm Butterfly.
Hey, I'm Firefly.
Have you ever wondered if we aren't being told the truth about everything?
What have we been lied to about? Join us as we have conversations and ask questions about everything. We invite you to keep an open mind and consider the unfathomable.
Let's break the chains that enslave our minds. Come on, let's go down the rabbit hole. Hey, Firefly, what's up?
What's up, Butterfly?
Oh my gosh.
Time.
Time for a rabbit hole.
Time for a rabbit hole that always kind of connects to the same things.
I know.
And they all kind of are intertwined.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this one, especially, so remember we did that episode called Influencers, and we talked about
Yeah.
kind of gross, like the social media
Remember Kim
influencers.
could be made in the lab.
Yeah, we talked about all
Let's
that.
usher out, bring out the new Kim.
That was a fun episode. But I was thinking that we really needed to do a follow-up and our ongoing theme that we always talk about is how people are such followers.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about followers.
Notice how social media is social engineering.
Right. Right, exactly. So if you go on Instagram or like YouTube, the people that are following you are called followers. Like this is
Yeah.
what they label the people or followers, or you're following somebody else. So right off the bat, they've like put it right out there in front of your face that you are either going to be a follower or you're going to be followed, or you're following somebody.
These are the dynamics.
Yeah, you're labeled a follower.
Yeah.
And this is what they want people to be. They want people to be followers. And so the people, like the big ones, like I've sort of figured out that if you don't already have like a huge following, um, you're not going to get a huge following on those platforms because they're sort of designed to engineer and steer people in certain directions, like with their algorithms. They make it so that you will only see the stuff that they want you to see. So I'm kind of suspicious of those people that have like millions of followers, like or 100,000 or whatever.
Like Stu Peters, who's like,
Yeah.
oh, I had a Facebook group and now I have 4 million followers.
I was complaining to 7 people on Facebook, and now I've got a studio, and I've got.
You know what it is you're not allowed to become a leader unless we foist you on them.
Mm-hmm.
We're the cult. We decide who's the leaders.
Yeah, and they, we kind of like tapped into this a little bit in our previous episode, how like the social media was sort of like the underground place to find news and stuff for a while,
Yeah.
it kind of maybe was, but I think like the mainstream people have all like gotten into it now, and so basically it's no better than mainstream media because they are directing you in a certain direction just like mainstream media.
That's what David Icke was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
David Icke, I listened to that interview that you sent me.
That was so good.
That was so good.
Yeah.
And
He
well, the
ta-
first hour was.
Yeah,
Then the dude kind of got into
he
like a little bit
he's
of a weird
he
space. I
starts
was like,
he starts getting off on some Kool-Aid too
I was
about
like, ah.
living like we're all living in
Yeah.
a video game or something. But
Plus, he was kind of like interrupting David Icke a little bit, and I was going,
yeah,
dude, I'm not really tuning in to hear you right now.
yeah. But
But
yeah,
anyways, David Icke was
he
saying,
makes good points though.
what was he saying? He was going,
Well, he talked about what we were talking about last time, which is how a lot of the people who were so awake before are now totally drinking the Kool-Aid, to use our terminology.
and then also David Icke was saying they're kind of guiding.
They're guiding, yeah.
And what are they
They
guiding?
steer the algorithms in a
They're
certain
saying,
direction.
okay, like Rumble is kind of like the new place where people who were anti-cooties are going.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, cool.
But it's, I guess.
But now they're being corralled back into the Elon Trump camp. And what is the Elon Trump camp? It is the left-right paradigm again.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting you back into the left-right paradigm. And those bad Democrats, but thank goodness that we have Trump and Elon.
Right. So, it's interesting though. I mean, I think it is really interesting and telling that they label you followers and following in these platforms. So
It's engineering.
yeah, don't you think it? I mean, it's like they're not even trying to disguise it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, yeah, we're just gonna say it like it is.
It sounds like mini cults.
Yeah.
Like an influencer and their
Yeah.
followers is like they're running that sect of the cult.
Yeah, well, it is a cult, and, you know how that one episode we talked about how, like, you know how all the cult leaders are megalomaniacs, psychopaths, and
Yes.
that their followers are actually sort of like little mini megalo
Mini Meglo.
mini megalo.
Exactly.
They're like little mini megalo psychopaths because they all follow and do what the leaders tell them to do, and then they try to tell all
They
anybody else what to
adopt
do.
the traits
Yeah.
of the cult leader.
Yeah, and then they tell whoever else they can tell what to do. So, "Wear your mask,"
That's right.
whatever.
Because what is it? It's all like Larry Fink going, we're going to be driving behavior.
Exactly, that's what
We're
they
going
wanna
to
do.
drive behavior with financial instruments.
Yeah,
And then so then their brainwashed minions are like, you only get 3 samples. I already talked to the other lady. You've had 3. That's driving behavior.
totally.
And that's what they're doing. The followers, that's why it's so important. And if you think about it, when did that come out? So it was probably like 2004 that Facebook came out.
Oh.
Because remember before that was MySpace?
Oh, yeah, that had a short life.
I liked
I
MySpace.
bet you MySpace got unalived. You know what I mean?
Tom,
Like,
the dude who remember
not
it was like
not
he had his own profile. When I first joined MySpace, it was like Tom was just like the one guy.
I'm not talking about, like, the dude, I'm talking about for some reason, um, they they decided that Facebook was gonna be the thing, you know what I
And
mean?
nothing weird that it's like run by some dude from that country from 1948 from Stanford, which is a
Yeah,
total cult.
right,
And it's like he did this in his dorm room.
right.
When I look at Mark Zuckerberg, I'm not thinking that dude did anything in his
I
dorm
don't
room.
think he created the whole thing, just like I don't think Elon has created his whole
They
thing
chose
either.
him as the front man. And
Yeah.
when I remember, I was kind of pissed. I didn't realize what was going on, but I remember being kind of pissed. I was like, I like MySpace. How come I got to do Facebook? I didn't like Facebook.
Well, and it's
You could
like
see naked chicks on
my
MySpace.
MySpace just sort of went away. It's
But
like
I don't know why.
it just went
It
away.
was awesome. I remember you could just go on MySpace and you didn't have to join and you didn't you could have joined, but you didn't have to like friend somebody and get them to accept. You could just go like message somebody, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then you could just go look at their whole profile. And it was like the Wild West and it was
Mhm.
awesome,
Mm.
you know? And
Mhm.
then all of a sudden it was like, now Facebook.
You're doing Facebook.
This is what you use. And that was social engineering.
Yeah.
You know, it was like
So
cramming you into that.
why do you think that happened?
Because
They
remember, they
they
had, well, it's like followers
Mhm.
and influencers.
Yeah.
And then also, remember the one guy who invented Facebook? He's like, I was one of the guys who came up with it. And he's like, well, what we did was we knew that you get endorphins when you get a like on your post.
Mhm.
So we had created bots that would just like people's posts just to kind of give them a little endorphin rush
Mhm.
because we want you to be addicted and we want you to spend as much time as you can,
Right.
you know?
Totally.
And that just goes to show how social engineering and insidious it is.
It's so gross. And that's how all of them are done. And I guess they don't really want us to feel liked because we don't have any following on Instagram.
Well,
Nobody likes us
that's
there.
also their control grid, right?
Totally.
That's how they make sure that none of the people like
We don't
remember
want all the Instagram people to hear what those people are talking
yeah,
about.
like Fauci.
Let's make them like not seen.
You know why? Because Fauci's coming out and saying we can't be normalizing these conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
That's what the social media is designed to like. Let's just not. You don't get to.
Yeah.
This no, but
Shut
Kim,
up.
I remember I would post something cool. Like I remember I was using Facebook like back in like 2013, 2014, and I remember I would post some cool. I remember this one time I posted a lyric from a Bob Dylan song, and it was like, "It's not dark yet, but it's getting there." And
Mm.
it was like kind of a cool little, and nobody noticed it, and whatever. I had a lot of followers back then, and I was like, nobody listened to me, you know. But then, just like on my feed when I went back, it was like Kim Kardashian just posted her butt, and it had like 10 million,
Yeah.
10 million likes.
Uh-huh.
And I quit Facebook that day
Yeah.
because I realized that
That's what they
it's social engineering.
Yeah.
They're only gonna promote what they're gonna promote.
And you know what I think also that makes me when I see something like that, I always question like, okay, is society really that deplorable and retarded that 10 million people are going to like that? Okay, part of me says yes, I think it could be true. But then another part of me goes, well,
That's the narrative.
possibly, but probably what they do is make it like look like 10 million people liked her. So then like all the other people who are followers look at it and go, "Oh, that's what we should be liking."
Because how do followers think?
They want to follow what the in crowd is doing.
There's a lot of people in the In-N-Out parking lot. I'm gonna go eat there.
Yeah. Or 10 million people like her butt. Oh my gosh. Okay, I guess I should like her butt.
That's right.
Social engineering.
And people like
follow.
they see how many likes are on something, and suddenly that validates
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, if all these people liked it, then I guess it must be good, and I should like it too."
I noticed like Kim Kardashian has like another like bot that they made in a lab named Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is he's like a Kim Kardashian, but he's got a different audience.
Hmm.
But he's totally like foisted on you. It's like, I've got 10 million followers. And he acts like it's because he's such a cool, clever guy.
Mm.
No, it's because the social engineers are using him to go and spew his virus
Right.
to his
Because
cult.
they know that not everybody is going to go for Kim, but some of those people that don't go for her are going to go for him. So they can like kind of mold the narrative that way.
There's different flavors of Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking is the different flavors of Kool-Aid, kind of like you ever played Zelda? You remember Zelda?
Mm-mm.
Well, in the 80s, the Zelda in the arcade, you would go and the first thing you did was you would move your dude and then you would pick which of the worlds you want to go into.
Oh.
And so you would choose, okay, I'm going to go into this world right now, and then you go play that world. But then if you like beat that world, then you go pick another world.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's kind of like the different flavors of Kool-Aid.
Right.
It's like you go into this world. Both worlds are complete fabrications and illusions that are created by the same cult,
Yeah.
but they're completely different. And then you have this notion. And then what I noticed that the cult will do is say, well, the people in this world, let's just have them fight against the people with this world.
Right.
And then we'll just have them argue with each other all
That's
the time.
what they want. Well, so what I think they're doing is, there's a direction they want us all to go in. And they know that like certain people are going to agree with one type of narrative and the other kind of people are going to agree with a different type of narrative. So they have like marketing. One is marketed towards this side and one is marketed toward this side, but the goal is the same goal to get everybody into
Brain chipped.
Brain chipped, digital.
And look at how
digital enslavement.
that was one of the things that David Icke was kind of talking about is like, look at how Elon has kind of marketed the brain chip idea.
Mhm.
And you have
And the
like
people
blue pill people kind of going, yeah, it's not that bad.
The people that were against it before and all like, won't be bad now because Trump's going to make it nice.
That's the thing I noticed about the Kool-Aid is you can contradict yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, well, yeah, but whatever. Shut up. Shut up. That's when they start telling you to shut up.
Yeah.
Is when you point out like glaring contradictions.
They don't want to hear it.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, like the blue pill, the one thing that's really important about the blue pill is that you don't interrupt, do you ever see that one commercial back in the 80s? It was like, Calgon, take this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
that's
so
what the blue pill is.
if your wife is in the bubble bath
with her Calgon,
you don't go in and like start telling her like, by the way, you spent too much at the store the other day. You know what I'm saying? You're ruining her Calgon experience.
Exactly.
She's gonna get mad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a good point. Like the people who are on the blue pill, either permanently or again because they fell off the wagon, they don't want that to be interrupted with any truth. Because that's like interrupting their Calgon.
and so getting back to the followers, what I noticed is, have you noticed like the influencer is kind of like their handler.
Right.
And what their handler is doing is giving you talking points to get around any of those bad conspiracy theories.
Exactly. They will have like a video, a meme, article or whatever ready at any time to contradict whatever you're trying to
Have you ever talked to somebody in a bubble?
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to talk to them, their bubble is airtight.
Yeah.
You go, but what about this? And they have some talking point for that. And it doesn't make sense. That talking point it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It breaks down, but they just kind of throw it out there.
Right.
Like, remember it was like, Oh my God, he said there was good people on both sides of Charleston. Or what was it? What was the name of that little town, that hick town that remember when Trump first started and the one dude was out there clearly a crisis actor with the Nazi flag?
Oh, right.
Charleston? No,
Was
it
it
wasn't
It wasn't Charleston?
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. Yeah.
Charlottesville. And remember the one girl got ran over by a car because the dude like backed up, which was totally like an MK Ultra, like he got activated. But
If that even actually
if
happened.
that even happened, and then but that was the reason that Charlottesville took place is because they used the narrative out of it that Trump's a racist.
Hmm.
He said there's good people on both sides. And so you realize now, looking back, Trump was playing a role, and so were all those dudes in the Nazi outfits. It's all a big narrative. But see, then you go, well, I remember what he said, and that breaks down. He said there was fine people on both sides, and the violence was not acceptable. And I remember that was a rational thing to say,
Hmm.
but the way that the left kept using that statement was that shows that he's a racist.
Yeah.
But see, that's their airtight bubble.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to make sense. All they need to do is just, it's kind of like a
And you
get out of
can't,
jail free.
yeah, you can't argue. Like, it's like you can't talk any sense into somebody who's locked in a bubble.
Well, it's kind of like what you've kind of brought up before. Have you ever talked to somebody who's hammered?
Yeah.
Like somebody who's not behind the wheel anymore, they're like blackout drunk. You know that, like trying to rationalize with them, like, dude, you should not eat that cactus. It's not going to help. My friend did that. He ate a
What?
cactus that we had at the house because he drank Jägermeister.
Oh,
He got hammered
and he wanted a cactus?
and he ate the cactus, which was
So,
gnarly. It
was
wasn't,
there nothing else to eat?
no, we had food. He just was like, and then I was like I was trying to tell him, dude, you're eating one of the house plants. But I wasn't getting through to him because he was drunk on the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
You can't get through to some people.
Yeah.
That's why I think what you kind of have to do is wean people off the Kool-Aid. They have to kind of wean off first. You have to
Mhm.
just kind of plant
You
seeds.
have, yeah, just a little, you don't want to like go super hardcore and like, tell him like the whole world's about to end and
You know what I like to do? I like to just kind of plant the seed of, could there be big banks controlling everything? Because what I notice is that most of these people are intelligent enough to understand that concept.
right. That's funny because I did send that movie that described that very thing to a friend.
Yeah.
She couldn't handle that. She thought
Oh, is she the one that
she thought that was racist. So I
racist?
she got yeah, she was like well, something like, how come they didn't talk about George Floyd and why and Trump's a racist? And I was like, wow, how
Oh,
did you even get that from that
her
movie?
influencer, because she's a follower,
Yeah,
and she has an influencer that's already addressed that.
that particular,
Like I
yeah,
used to do sales. Have you ever done sales? You
yeah,
used to sell stuff.
yeah,
In sales, one of the things that they have is like overcoming objections.
right.
So you
So
go
there's an
in,
excuse for everything.
the customer goes, I have no interest at all. And instead of just going, okay, thanks, have a nice day, you go, let me overcome that objection. So you're saying there's a chance,
They end up
right?
walking out with like 5
Yeah,
bags of perfume.
exactly. And it's such a lame thing to do
Yeah,
because I don't like selling that way. And if
yeah,
someone says they're not interested, okay, thanks, have a nice day. But no, you got to overcome their objections, right?
yeah,
Well, followers do that. They
yeah.
overcome your objections with the influencer's talking points.
Whatever they've been told to say.
So that's why the social engineering is kind of like, it's kind of shrew.
It is.
They're just like, you have an influencer and your followers.
Mhm.
And then the influencer, because these people tap into this Kool-Aid every day. Have you noticed?
Yeah, totally. And some of those people you can't get through to. Like the friend that when I showed her that film about who runs the world and it was basically showing how like Coke and Pepsi are owned by the same people. Like,
Yeah.
there's like a couple people that own everything. And she took that she completely didn't take that
I don't
message
see
from
racism though.
Y yeah, but she
Everything is
did.
racist.
When you come across somebody like that, you kinda have to realize, okay, you're not gonna break through to them. I kinda gave up on her. So, I was like, "Nah,
I wonder how it
she
happens.
doesn't get it."
Eventually,
But
they
a
have
lot
to
of
get sick of their influencer.
yeah, but a lot of people, if you point out some of these things, they realize that it's true, you know?
I'm starting to think like Dr. Drew and even like Salty Cracker. Like, if they're allowed to have a platform and a big audience, they're probably who they want.
Oh yeah. Dr. Drew is totally in the cult.
They totally want
Yeah.
him.
He's I used to think like he was either super dumb or he was like always trying to play devil's advocate to try to like reason with both sides. And then I realized no, he's just in the cult and
And
he's
like Salty Cracker, I like Salty Cracker. He's funny, right?
mm,
But Salty Cracker's always just like, oh, these libtards, and like talking smack about like AOC,
uh,
which that's like easy fodder.
right.
That's like making fun of a retard. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, but whatever. But he never really talks about that country from 1948, or if he does, he really tiptoes around the
Mhm.
subject. You know what I'm saying? So these influencers, their job is to give you the talking points that overcome objections, but also keep you playing in the sandbox.
Right.
Don't talk about these things.
And it's really easy for people to follow. Like that's what's so scary. Like most people are followers.
Yeah,
Most people are followers.
yeah.
So they will just follow along with what they're told. And I think what
You know why? Because it's easier.
it's easier, you don't have to fight it because what you're being told is, what the leaders want everybody to do. So fighting it is a little trickier, a little more uncomfortable.
You know what it makes me think about? That Anne Rice book that I'm listening to on audiobook.
Yeah,
I just started listening to The Witching Hour,
sounds
and
good.
it is. It's really good. But I've only listened to like the first part of the first chapter. So, and I didn't spoil it, so I don't even know what the plot is. So,
Hmm.
like, if you had seen it and you just told me the end, I'd be like, oh. But anyways, um, the very first chapter, she's talking about visiting this woman in a like not a nursing
Mental
home, a
hospital.
mental hospital,
Yeah.
and in the mental hospital, they keep her completely doped up on psychotropic drugs, making sure that she's just like in a stupor.
God.
And so the lady's visiting and talking to the doctor and like looking at how much of this drug they're administering to this woman. And she's like not even in good health, and they're administering like gnarly dosages,
Hmm.
right? And she's like, "Why are you giving so much?" And the nurse is like, "Well, we don't want her to get agitated."
Heaven forbid.
And I think that's kind of what the influencer is doing with the followers.
Yeah,
Like, don't get agitated.
right.
Just take your blue pill.
I've got this under control.
Yeah,
I'm an influencer. All you have to do is follow.
that's all you got to do.
Yeah, just follow along.
And it's kind of like the giver. Remember, he's always taking
Yeah,
his Soma pill.
yeah,
And in the Brave New World, they take their Soma pill. Why is that? Because they don't want you getting agitated.
yeah.
They want you to stay calm,
Shut up.
shut up, and let us guide you to your death. But you're not going to know you're going to your death. You're going to think like Sirhan. You're going to think you're just shooting wildly at a shooting range,
Right.
but actually you're in the Imperial Hotel.
Yeah.
You're about to get arrested and go to jail for life as a patsy, but it's not going to be good for you. But you're going to be disassociative enough that you're going to just be thinking everything's going fine.
Well, so that's what it means to be a follower.
Yeah.
You're just following along. And I know, like, I think, I don't know, when I think about like just as a personality trait, I would I would guess I wonder if there's been any I'm sure there's been some research on this, but I would guess that the majority of people are followers just by their personality. I would think that the majority, I would think like 70%
They did
probably.
a study. They did a
Oh, did
study
they?
on that. So they did a waiting room. And in the waiting room, all of the participants in the study that were like part of it, there was like six of them in the waiting room. And then the one person they're doing the experiment on doesn't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So all the six people in the waiting room stand up and face the wall.
I remember seeing that
And then the person
at a
sitting
certain
there,
time, like they got like a signal or something, right? Like
yeah,
there was like a bell that went off.
something like
Yeah,
that,
and they all
right?
stood up at the
So
same
they
time.
stand up and they face the wall. Now, there's no indication of why they're doing it, and there's no suggestion that you have to do it. But a majority of people will get up and do it just because everybody else did it. And that's kind of how humans are. And there's something to be said, like, that's a beautiful thing, because Humans are looking for camaraderie. They're like dolphins will drown themselves if they're like separated from the pod. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So there is that human element of like loneliness sucks and
Yeah.
you want to be a part of, but be a part of our thing.
Be a part of
Be a part of our red pill
something
thing.
good. And
Yeah.
yeah, you don't have to follow what the cult is telling you
You're
to
like,
do.
I'm
Like,
lonely, so I'm gonna go hang out with these rapists.
yeah, like you, you don't want to go off the cliff just because everybody else is doing it, like
That's like the old
they're leading
adage.
you to your demise. Yeah.
Remember your mom used to always say that.
If Johnny went and jumped off a cliff, would you follow him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're like, probably.
Yeah.
No.
If he was really cool.
If he was really cool, probably. But yeah, that's pretty much. And the thing is that's what we've kind of talked about too, is the blue pill is leading off the cliff.
Yeah,
They are mesmerized and like rats being led through the street.
totally. Yeah. I mean, it's so I think given the fact that most people are followers, um I would bet though like a big part of our listeners are probably not followers.
No,
You know what I mean? I
that's
would
why
guess.
I don't trip out. If we have 35 listeners, those are 35 bitching people.
I think so too.
And that's kind of gets back to the United States. Like, remember the founding fathers, where there was only 3% of them that were like, fuck England.
Yeah.
But then once they started prevailing in their cause, then all the followers jump on board.
Well, that's our point, I think, is
Yeah.
that, um I think it's important just to not shut up like they want us to, and to keep making sure that we get these messages out, and hopefully try to help the people that fell off the wagon and got back on the Kool-Aid.
I don't mind if
Get
someone's a
them.
follower and then they go just start following us.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
cool. I think we kind of turn people into leaders.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think
Because
like our followers, the Kool-Aid that we're serving is going to turn them into leaders.
we are leading, the path to away from the cliff.
Think
Away
for
from the
yourself.
cliff.
Like come think for yourself with us.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're saying.
Yeah.
Don't do what we're telling you. Think for yourself with us.
Ask some questions.
Because that's how we win. I think
Yeah.
we become the zeitgeist.
Hmm.
And then once we become the zeitgeist, the followers come join the zeitgeist.
Yeah. I mean, now, like Dr. Fauci is saying that we have to stop conspiracy theories. Well,
We have to break out.
they just need to stop the conspiracies, but we don't need to stop talking about them. And the more we talk about them, the more other people will hear about them and start
I don't
talking
think their
about them.
grid is airtight.
No,
I don't think they can keep us from leaking out.
no, they can't.
No. And I think that's our hope is we leak out, we get enough people thinking because there's other people out there. I'm not trying to say that we're the most profound, deep people, although I kind of say that sometimes, but we're profound and deep. But I'm not saying we're the only ones.
Yeah.
There's other people out there who are probably hearing our show and go, dude, I'm glad they're saying that because I've been feeling the same way. And I don't hear that anywhere else.
Well, that's why we wanted to start this podcast, because we felt like there probably were people like that, like remember when the cooties whole thing started? Did you feel, I felt like really lonely and like isolated because I didn't, it's like it seemed like everybody was getting on board with, and then like the Pokey Pokes came out and it was like everybody said that everybody was doing it and stuff, and I was like, that's just lame. Like that's just totally lame. And
I remember
it was
feeling really
kind of a
disgusted.
lonely, I was super disgusted, and it was kind of a lonely feeling. And I remember thinking, like, where are all the people who think like this, and I think there's a lot of people that think like this.
Well, what happened was I went and started standing on a street corner with a sign.
Yeah, that's how we met.
And that's how we met.
Yeah.
And then people started coming that, well, first of all, there was the people who had come up and go, "You're a fascist." And I'd be like, "Do you know what a fascist is?" "Shut up." But then
they got that from their leaders.
Yeah.
Their little mini megalomaniacs.
That was their little marching orders from their influencer told them the word fascist.
And shut up.
And shut up. But then there was people like you who would stop and be like, "Oh my gosh,
my
I'm
peeps.
so
I found
glad."
my peeps.
Because I remember the first time I met you, it was real early in COVID. It was that first year
Yeah.
that things were going on.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time, when you talked to somebody who was, we called it awake,
Yeah.
it felt so good.
I know, it was so refreshing.
You didn't wanna, like, you stop talking to them
Yeah.
because you're
You're
so
like
constantly surrounded by people that you can't talk to.
yeah, they're so clueless and lost.
I tried to tell my mom, "Don't get the pokey poke," and
These people just wouldn't listen.
I gave her what, like, Dr. Day and, I told you about Dr. Day, she was cool, and then I also showed her Dr. Pennywise? Penny?
Tenpenny.
Tenpenny?
Mhm. She's kind of not a very nice lady. I met her.
I know.
It's
It's
kind
kinda
of
like what they say
disappointing.
about meeting your idols.
Don't meet. If anybody met us, I think they'd probably like
They'd
us.
they'd like us.
Yeah.
They'd like us. Yeah, she got kinda, like, burnt out toward the end of COVID because she was, like, doing talks on the
Yeah.
vaccine,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the pokey,
Yeah.
and I think what happened is she got burnt out, and
Yeah.
then she got grumpy about it.
She got really grumpy.
But I can understand that. But what I did was I gave her and Dr. Day to my mom to deter her from getting the shot in the months before she took it. And then she went and got the shot. And I asked her, I said, "Why'd you get the shot?" And she goes, "Well, um, I watched."
Fox News told me to.
No,
No,
she doesn't.
she watches CNN.
I don't even know what she watches. She's always getting all this weird stuff from all of her peeps, but
Mm.
she's getting blue pilled from somewhere.
Yeah,
Like blue pill is kind of like a drug, you can buy it on the street.
I know.
You don't have to
It's
get it from
everywhere.
you don't have to get it from the store.
It's everywhere.
So
You don't
anyways,
even need a
she
prescription.
got like street blue pill. But anyways,
That one's really bad.
the specific street blue pill that she got was a psychologist.
Oh God.
So that's who orchestrated
Oh yeah.
the cooties. It
Yeah.
was psychologists. And if you look at
They had
like,
an argument for everything to
yep,
debate whatever should come up against it.
the blue pill is derived from over a century of Tavistock Institute MK Ultra studying
Mhm.
of subjects and figuring out how to
How to
manipulate
control
and
their
control.
behavior.
So they've gotten good at it.
Mhm.
Their Kool-Aid is pretty potent.
I mean, I guess you have to be pretty like resistant to not be tempted by the Kool-Aid or to be affected by the Kool-Aid, you know?
What I have found, I was trying to think about what Kool-Aid is.
Hmm.
Kool-Aid is anything that some media head is telling you.
Right.
If some media head is guiding your opinions,
Hmm.
you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, just because the media is telling you to do something, that doesn't mean that that's the thing to do.
Everything is media too. If it's coming from your phone, if it's coming from your TV, if it's coming from your computer, if it's coming from your movie screen, if it's Netflix,
Hmm.
it's all television.
Hmm.
Remember they would just call it TV.
Hmm.
They didn't want you saying television because you might catch on to the fact that it's television.
Right.
But it's all every screen that you're getting information from is all Kool-Aid.
Right.
It's all blue pill.
Right.
You need to be able to set aside the Kool-Aid. And I think what people are having a hard time doing is, as a form of like pastime,
Yeah.
they're drinking Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And that's
It's like, well, I drink Budweiser.
bored, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna drink some Kool-Aid. And that's what's really scary because you might just be like bored or tired or whatever, so you want to relax and like, turn on the TV,
Yeah.
television, and before you know it, you're drinking Kool-Aid and you don't even know
It's so
you
annoying.
don't even know you're drinking it. And
Yeah.
that's I think what happens to a lot of people is they're just being force-fed the Kool-Aid and they
And
don't
you get sutured in.
know. Hmm.
Sutured in is a deep concept, and they taught that in film class. So that means that you kind of leave behind what they've trained you to do when you're watching TV, movies, and now social media, and you're watching some interview of two talking heads on social media. You're still getting sutured into the narrative.
Totally.
You're suspending your disbelief.
So you leave behind reality for
You
that
leave
moment.
behind reality. Now you're suggestible. Now the Kool-Aid is taking effect, and you're getting drunk on the Kool-Aid.
Right.
Because you're watching these two heads talk. Like I was thinking about that dude that was interviewing David Icke. He kind of started serving Kool-Aid at the end,
Oh,
a little bit,
yeah.
and like kind of talking about like it was weird. I can't remember even what he was talking about,
Yeah.
but it was like,
Well, you have to be careful with whoever you're getting your information from. They could all be serving Kool-Aid.
You have
We could
to.
be serving Kool-Aid.
We could be, but see, what
Ours
we're
is
doing is we're calling attention to the Kool-Aid.
yeah, exactly.
I don't think we're serving Kool-Aid because when someone's serving Kool-Aid, they're foisting a worldview on you.
Right.
That's the difference.
And they're kind of pushing it.
They're pushing it.
Yeah. They're like
They're
they're
marketing.
yeah, and they're like those people that like, like you might have had a friend who like quit drinking or whatever,
Yeah.
and like they were like doing really well and stuff. And then there's that friend who is like, come on, let's go out and party. And
Yep.
they're like totally like trying to push that person
Dude.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of not cool.
No,
You
not
know?
with this.
No.
Because now you're guiding someone back into a very toxic worldview and dangerous.
Yeah.
These days, it's dangerous.
It's dangerous because the more people that follow along with the agenda, just like the cooties agenda, um, the more people that follow, they make it harder for the rest of us to make this not happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I remember being anti-media back in like the turn of the century, like 2000.
It's so funny when you say the turn of the
I
century.
know. Feels
I
like the
always think of like
1900s.
1899 or something.
Back in the turn of the century. But yeah, I remember being anti-media back then because I feel like our culture like fell off a cliff in like 95
yeah.
when Britney Spears was on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Oh,
That was
right.
like a milestone bad day for America. Not that I have anything against Britney Spears as a person. I think she's a victim. I think
Oh,
her
yeah,
dad like
for
basically
sure.
controlled
I think
her.
she's been MK Ultra'd for sure.
Yeah, she seems like it. And
Yeah.
it's sad,
Mhm.
but what she represents kind of took hold in 95 and then our culture just went downhill. And that was when I was only like in my early 20s and I was starting to already put pieces together like, oh my goodness, the media is controlling all these people.
Yeah.
And but then I was like, whatever. Who cares? I'm gonna be
Yeah.
cool. I'm gonna be myself. Now it's like it's more political and business related.
Right.
There's more
Well, we
ramifications.
kind of see that you can't really just sit back and be like, whatever, whatevs. It's, I'm just gonna go go do my job and come home and watch Netflix and everything's fine,
That's what they want you to do.
Yeah, you can't be like that though, because then, it's like when people start going along with these things, you get closer and closer to their end goal, which is basically a digital enslavement. They want people in a 15-minute city where everything is electric and they can turn it off anytime they want.
Yeah.
You can't go more than 10 miles out of your city limit or whatever they decide that day. And
Yep.
you're all
Total control.
controlled. Yeah. If they don't like what you're saying, they can turn off your chip or
Yeah.
your digital currency so you can't even buy food. So it's very dangerous to be a follower these days.
It's very dangerous because you're being led into that trap. And once they slam that door, it's really hard to get out.
It's never all these things that they put into place for like our safety, they've never undone.
Yep.
Look at like the Patriot Act, yeah. I mean, even income tax, property tax, like
yeah.
Income tax was supposed to be like a temporary thing.
Once the
You know
cult
what I mean?
gets their
Once they
once
get
they get one of their policies in, they just leave it there.
they just leave
forever.
it there, and people just get so used to following along. So it's very dangerous to be a follower,
It's
especially
very dangerous. And what we need to do now is understand that if they get the digital prison in place, it's going to be gnarly to get out of that.
I don't think there is any way out. I think if that goes into place, there's no way out. It's like that movie, No Way Out.
No way out.
So,
Was
but,
that Kevin Costner?
yeah,
That was a good
that was a
movie.
good movie.
That was good.
But yeah, so we do not want that. We do not want digital
I don't think they're
enslavement.
going to be able to get that because I think too many people are like talking.
I think so.
I think that's all it takes.
Yeah.
We don't need guns. I mean, guns helps. Like the fact that they know that we have a lot of armed people,
Just the fact that they know that
that helps.
it does help.
Because like Australia, they're like, you've got no guns.
Yeah, they
and they
can't
can
do
just come
anything.
and take over.
Yeah, I think
But
England is like that too.
yeah, here we're like, well, that dude
It gives
that's
them some reservations.
that dude that's like driving his lawnmower is packing.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
They know
It
that.
makes them think twice.
But I don't think is our power.
No.
I think our power is freedom of speech.
Yeah, I was going to say talking. So
Yeah,
when they say shut up,
that's what they mean.
yeah.
That's what the first thing they're always saying. Like that's what Fauci was saying when he got trotted out the other day. By the way, shut up. You know, Trump is kind of saying shut up too.
Oh yeah.
Trump is
Well, he
throwing
doesn't want you to talk about the
that country
you
from
know who's
1948.
yeah.
Yeah. If you talk about that, you're gonna go to
Straight to
jail.
jail. Straight
Straight
to
to jail.
jail.
I like that show. I like that show. Parks and Recreation. Good writers. Good writers. And then what was the other one? How about Elon, Mr. Free Speech himself?
Oh yeah.
Going, well, really didn't want to provide a platform for these anti-Semites.
Yeah. He's
It's
like
like,
he was all into free speech supposedly before
yeah.
enough to spend $40 billion to save it, but now he doesn't care about it anymore.
Now I'm just going to sell it back to BlackRock, which
Yeah.
is perfect
Yeah.
because BlackRock is going to be total stewards of freedom of speech.
Oh, for sure.
As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, now I almost kind of don't even care about what is it, Twitter or X.
Yeah.
That's kind of irrelevant.
I think it's weird that he renamed it too. What do you think the meaning of that is? That seemed weird to me.
He's kind of weird with
Uh-huh.
names, like his kid being named an equation.
Yeah.
He's kind of like
Oh, maybe there's an X in his kid's name or something.
maybe one of his kids' name X.
Yeah.
He's like, I named it after my 11th son.
Oh my gosh.
Well, no, this is an interesting idea because I think what you kind of have to understand is that you have megalomaniac psychopaths
Hmm.
running the world,
Right.
which is kind of a little disconcerting just to come to that conclusion.
Right.
But that's what's going on now.
Yeah.
So you have megalomaniac psychopaths running the world, and their agenda is controlling your mind.
Yeah. And
And
controlling your behavior and your movement.
and when they have a completely assimilated subject, like we've talked about, like the two dudes walking on the beach 3 miles from everybody else and wearing masks in 2025. That when you have two dudes like that, now they can become megalomaniac psychopaths
Right.
and they can micromanage and be tattlers and Karens, and they can keep everybody who's bad from getting in, and then you just kind of turn people off so that it's like, oh well, like Firefly, he's kind of starved in his cabin. Oh well.
Yeah.
That's kind of I think what they kind of want.
Yeah.
They're like, well, we can't really do anything. Maybe they could do me.
They could do you, they could starve you.
There's some things that they can
Yeah.
do, but they can't just come up and like have me locked up in prison just for things I
Just
say.
for being you.
Yet.
Yes. But
That's what Trump's trying to usher.
that's where it's leading,
That's right.
So I mean, I don't understand anybody who would be in agreement with like not having free speech or having free-ish speech only.
No.
Like not being able to say certain. Now, so this is interesting. I heard about some I think there were college kids at a bar or something and they had like posters. Did you hear about this that were saying like F the you know who's?
Okay.
Did you hear about that?
No, but I like it.
And
I would give him high fives.
like they got like the waitresses got fired
Of course.
and the I think the kids got like kicked out of their college for this. And I was like thinking, okay, well, wait a second.
What?
Maybe you don't agree with that, but w- is there like a law against like having a poster that you know what I mean?
No, but
Can a college really do that?
you can read the tea leaves on that though.
Yeah,
Because what do they really not want you to say? That's probably what's important to them.
right. So, but I was thinking, how can a college kick somebody out for an opinion or for saying
Because the
something?
college
Do,
is
do
in
they,
the cult because they get funding.
yeah, but do they have like rules written in? I'm wondering that says like you can't say certain things.
They have unwritten rules, and then what they can do is just arbitrarily decide, by the way, we have a rule that says you're because they can just call that violence. You're being violent.
Yeah.
You're just saying stuff that's violent. Basically, it's like, and that's kind of, I think, the influencer kind of social engineering, like the follower and the influencer. It's like the megalomaniac psychopaths. They don't want anybody saying anything they don't like.
Right.
So they create this environment where the influencers have their followers and their followers are never allowed to come out and become an influencer saying something that the influencers don't like.
Right.
That's kind of, and that's what's going on with the college thing.
They're little mini megalomaniac psychopath minions.
And then they had Karen saying, I don't like their sign.
You know what? The Karens are like the new brown shirts,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like the little kid in 1984
Yeah,
that is eyeballing him because all he did was like a subtle little tell. He
right.
did a little thing that was kind of weird. And the
Yeah,
little girl was just like all over him,
yeah,
turning him in.
totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Because that's what they want. They want megalomaniac psychopaths micromanaging everybody's behavior and turning people in. Because remember during COVID, that was kind of like the tattlers. Remember? Remember
Yeah,
that one year?
yeah.
It was like, now if you hear conversation around the Christmas party about people not wearing masks or not wanting to get the pokies, you can just tell people. You go tell on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
They
you
were
call the
saying that.
police.
Yeah.
Call the police and tell the police on your family members.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the little psychopath behaviors of the megalomaniacs. Once they become assimilated followers, that's what they become.
Mm-hmm.
So the influencer is Larry Fink. The followers are little mini megalos.
Right. Mini Manglos. And who wants to be that?
They're corralling you.
Who wants to be that?
Some people are happy with that. You know, I was thinking about AOC the other day, and like I hear a lot of people making fun of her, but it's so obvious that she's somebody who just for money and fame and power went and just said, I'll do whatever and played a role and said whatever they told her to say. And you got to think, like, what kind of a person allows them to be like that? You
A
know,
follower.
they're followers.
Mm-hmm.
They're followers.
Right.
And followers also kind of don't stop and think whether they should,
No.
like the Jeff Goldblum line
Right.
from Jurassic
Jurassic
Park.
Park.
You
Yeah.
know, they never stop to think whether or not they should.
Yeah.
All they were thinking about is could I? They don't think whether or not they should
Yeah.
because it's arbitrary, right? Right now, you can't talk about that country from 1948. But how do you know that tomorrow it's not something that you like to talk about a lot?
Right.
Suddenly is going to get you like unalived.
Right. Yeah.
They don't want to think like that,
No.
you know?
Yeah, most people don't think two steps ahead.
No, they just and that's when because you might get agitated. So they'll go take another soma pill. I think that sometimes when I talk to people, they get a little worked up and then they just go take their soma.
Yeah, they go turn on CNN or something and they're like, okay,
Soothe.
back to normal.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's back to normal.
Hmm.
That's what
They're normal.
that's what Fauci was talking about, right? We can't allow a new normal. Normal right now is self-censor, drink the Kool-Aid,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, he doesn't want it to be normal that there's people actually calling them out. You know, it's like if we say something they don't like or do something they don't like, straight to jail, or
Why can't we have a community?
they investigate us. You know,
Straight to jail.
yeah.
Straight to
But
jail.
if they're doing something we don't like, it's like if we call it out, we're conspiracy theorists.
We're conspiracy theorists. Plus, who are we hindering? We're not the ones making laws. We're not putting in policies. We're not hindering people's freedoms. I'm saying I disagree with you. I have that right. You work for me, Fauci.
Hmm.
You're part of our government. You represent me. I'm your
Yeah, if
boss.
I want to investigate you, I will.
I don't like that. You know, that's another thing. Like these people kind of just accept that some things should be secret. Have you ever talked to somebody who says that?
Yeah,
They're like, well, you know, they shouldn't be divulging all that stuff. Yeah, shit. No,
yeah.
I want to know everything. I want to know everything. And you know, if you're going to be representing me, be transparent.
Well, that's kind of that willful ignorance attitude of the people that take the blue pill. They don't want to know everything.
They don't want to.
They don't want to know. They
Yeah.
just want to like have their daily life and, you know, not know about all the dark
And think about their
things.
daily life of a typical blue pill person. They get to the end of the day, they're going to go watch some television show or movie. That's going to be totally more blue pill for them. They're going to get more blue pill
It's like
because,
an uptake.
yeah, Hollywood is gnarly like blue pill,
Yeah.
especially these days. You
Yeah.
watch some new, but even if you watch like old school movies, there's kind of blue pill in
Yeah,
there.
totally.
You're now you
And
kind
you
of
know
see it.
what's happening now is I think Hollywood is sort of like they say it's on its way out. It'll never be completely gone, but more people are starting to turn to like alternate things like YouTube. So that's where you get the blue pills now too. You know what I mean?
And everything's a big distraction. I was like scoping out YouTube a little bit, and there's just a lot of just like ridiculous like conspiracy stuff now.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, so what they're trying to do with that, I think, is how they sort of like they like to ridicule the whole flat earth idea,
They
and
stigmatize
they
it.
stigmatize it and make it seem really lame, and like you're just a crazy weirdo if you think that, and so they make it look really stupid. And so like whatever else you're talking about, you're probably totally like you're just off. You don't
The
know what.
influencer tells their followers
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and says, by the way, if you come across one of these people who thinks the earth is flat or
They're
like
crazy.
everybody's already been sent to Guantanamo, they have like all of these like really outlandish
They put all
ones.
of those things into one box. So
And
they,
I think those are put out there too.
yeah,
The cult puts those out
yeah,
there so that they can kind of tarnish you
right.
with them.
So it's like all those crazy things are in one box. And so there might be one really valid thing in that box. But if you're talking about that one valid thing and they've already put you in that category with all the really, really crazy things, then the people that hear you talking about the valid thing are going to think well, you must be
Yeah.
crazy. So I kind of think that's what they're doing with a lot of that outlandish conspiracy stuff is I think they're trying to make it so crazy sounding that whenever you talk about a valid
Yeah.
conspiracy theory, like Fauci's
They can
shenanigans and stuff,
they can
they,
stigmatize you with that crazy
yeah,
thing.
they go, oh, well, that person also believes in like, these five-headed monsters walking around in
Yeah.
town or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And they'll have so that's why I noticed on YouTube there's a lot of that.
Hmm.
So when you go on there and it's like these people have like 2 million views and they're talking about some, paranormal witch,
Yeah.
which is cool. I like that, but it's like, well, okay, but that's kind of like if you believe in paranormal witches, then you're an idiot, and the followers are going to be like, well, I disregard you.
Yeah.
You're not making sense like Elon.
Yeah.
So I think this is an interesting idea. I think that what it comes down to is social media is total social engineering on steroids. It was
Right.
like TV, movies that was like graduated into social media.
Totally.
And social media is full on conditioning you and social engineering you. And if you just look at the structure of social media, the structure itself
Is followers and
is
following.
followers following,
Yeah.
following. And like, I think it's kind of also like they dangle the carrot of become an internet, you know,
Yeah.
that was what my ex-wife wanted to become, an internet celebrity.
Oh,
That's what she said.
maybe that's why you guys are
That's
divorced.
right. Well, I told her because I was like, dude, that's lame. But the reason I knew it was lame is because I knew that you don't become an internet celebrity unless the cult says, oh, yeah, you're cult approved.
Right.
Because all that social media stuff, that's all run by the cult very strictly. That's why they have all those Indian dudes. It's 75% of the engineers in Silicon Valley are Indian dudes.
Whoa.
And why are they there? Is because they're there to say, Firefly, you have said the wrong thing
We
again.
know you are talking in
Yet
quotes.
now you're using code, but we are onto your code. We're onto your
We
code.
broke through that a long time ago.
I know what Earth modification is, Firefly. I know Earth modification now.
We've put up a new hashtag.
We give you the YouTube, we give you the UN fact check now. But that's what's going on. It's like being closely monitored. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you got to get out of the Kool-Aid. You got to set down these things. Can't watch Netflix. I don't think any Hulu and stuff like that. And it's hard. Or this is how you got to,
Well,
because I watch stuff.
yeah, I do too. I
You
mean,
got to not get drunk on it.
yeah, you have to like it's like, you don't
I
have
can
to
do that.
you don't have to go to a dinner party and drink two bottles of wine. You can
No.
have a glass of wine or a martini and socialize with people. This is how you have to treat Netflix.
Yeah.
You can watch it, but you have to realize you're not going to sit there and like be brainwashed by it. You have to
Yeah.
see what they're serving you and realize
Yeah.
that even in the movies that you enjoy watching or the programs that you enjoy watching, there's social engineering happening.
Like The Cell was like that. The Cell with
Mhm.
John Cusack and Samuel Jackson. I watched it. It was entertaining enough where I sat through it and watched it, knowing full well that this was Kool Aid. This was gnarly Kool Aid. This was gnarly Kool Aid. But I was able to appreciate it for what it was and enjoy it and pass the time.
Yeah. Be
Because I think
entertained.
you got to have some
Yeah.
pastime. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Otherwise, you're gonna be living like a monk. And
Mhm.
you got. But if you look at like the Amish,
Yeah.
the Amish don't drink any of the Kool Aid. Have you noticed?
I know, they don't. They've probably never tasted it.
They've never had Kool Aid.
Yeah.
The Kool Aid's not allowed in an Amish like
No.
community,
No.
which is great.
Yeah.
So I mean,
I
it's hard to be Amish.
think I'd wanna be Amish.
It's hard to be Amish.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's I mean, you gotta basically be, abandoning all of the modern accoutrements.
Right.
I don't think you have to do that.
Yeah.
I think what you have to do is look at them and say, "Wait, they're not drinking the Kool-Aid. They're not drunk on the Kool-Aid." So, because I think it's really, really, really important. The white pill road home is put down the Kool-Aid.
Right.
You have to. And so you have to be able to identify what Kool-Aid you're drinking.
Yeah. Put down the Kool-Aid and stop following. The Kool-Aid makes you follow.
You don't need to be a follower,
No.
you know?
Yeah. But follow us
Follow us. Present company excluded.
because we like to talk
Yeah,
about this stuff.
yeah.
And I think there's other people who like to talk about it, like to listen to it too.
I don't want
So
you to follow us.
I
I
want you
want you
to
to join
I want
us.
you to join us.
That's
Me too.
different
I wish I could change the little button.
from follow to join.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
when you have
Well,
people,
you know what? You know what our intro says is come on, let's go
yes,
down the rabbit hole.
come on, join us.
Yeah.
It'd be like if you had a dinner party and you went, "Do you want to follow us to dinner?"
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'll join you for
Follow
dinner.
follow me to the dinner
Yeah,
table.
come on, follow us over to my house and
Yeah.
then follow us to dinner. No, it's like join us.
Exactly.
You're an equal.
Yeah.
Follower is kind of like you're kind of subservient.
Right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You're a follower.
Yeah, just
You
that label.
follow me.
Just that label. Like I remember when I first saw or got on Instagram, it seemed almost kind of offensive to me. I'm like, why do I don't want to be a follower. It
I
really
prided
it
myself on being a leader.
yeah, it seemed really weird to me, you know? I'm like, why do I want to be a follower?
It's so lame.
Yeah.
Like it's even more than follower. I'm starting to realize it's remember from the Mummy the analogy that I use where in the Brendan Fraser version of the Mummy from 1995
Mhm.
the mummy comes back to life and he puts a spell on all the locals and they are walking through the streets under his spell and they're going Hemotep, Hemotep. That is what a follower is.
Totally.
It's not like you know what, I'm behind this person because I really believe in what they're saying. That's not what's going on.
No.
It's you're becoming like an automaton
Mhm.
and you're not following, you're kind of being guided. It's different.
You're being led to your demise.
Yeah, it's different. You're not following because following suggests that you're somehow behind the wheel and there's something that you're deciding to do. You are kind of deciding to drink the Kool-Aid, but once you take that drink, then now you're not following because you're not making decisions anymore. You're being guided.
So, I think that's a good place to end it.
That was awesome. I think
Yeah.
that was good. I think we had to talk about that because I think it just kind of shows how built into the rudiments of social media is this whole like blue pill mentality.
And I think what we wanted to kind of like sort of draw attention to is how a lot of people have started following again.
People that were red pilled went back to being blue pilled.
Hmm.
Red pill is just it's you're not following anymore.
Yeah.
That's all red pilling is.
Yeah.
You're not just going along
Yeah.
and just saying, "Oh yeah, that sounds good." You know?
Or I don't want to know what's happening.
I don't want to know.
So just put down the Kool-Aid and stop following,
Yeah.
right?
I was thinking like the analogy would be like if a dude's cheating on his wife, right?
Hmm.
And she kind of knows that he's cheating, but every time he comes in late, she just goes, "I don't want to know."
Yeah.
You know, he's making good money and I'm comfortable and I don't want to leave, so I'm just gonna stay.
right.
You know, I think you have to kind of do that.
Well, that's funny because it's like the government is sort of like um being in a abusive relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's weird how people
I'm
like,
like a battered wife citizen.
yeah, it's like people will just kind of keep taking it. They keep taking it, whatever the government
Well,
does,
that's
you know?
what is the Stockholm syndrome? The Stockholm syndrome is a thing.
Yeah, it's where, isn't that the one where they like love their abuser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that one sticker during the cooties, what did it say? It said, "Govern me more, daddy.
Yeah.
Govern me more."
Yeah.
And I think that is kind of it. I think
Yeah.
that people have gotten to the point where they know they're being abused by
Right.
this government, but now they've kind of gotten into this syndrome where it's kind of fun. I'm going to wear my mask when I go on a 10-mile walk.
Yeah. They don't want to think for themselves. That's the problem. So,
That's the followers.
that's the followers and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
because the more of them, it makes it more
You
difficult.
can't just make fun of them and go, dude, you're retarded. That
Yeah.
sucks for you. Because it's like, dude, you're retarded and you're kind of affecting me
Yeah.
adversely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, don't be a follower,
Don't be a
Firefly.
follower. No, I would never do it. I would never do it. We're gonna have to win this war, which I don't think is a war that you fight with guns. We have guns, but it's not how you win.
It's you fight with words.
You fight with words and you win people over and you get them out of their Kool-Aid stupor
Yeah.
and realizing who the real enemy is, and that's how it's won.
Right.
That was good.
That was awesome.
Good talking to you.
You too.
Okay, I'll talk to
Bye.
you soon.
Bye.